Welcome back to Breakfast at Dawn. That was Hassan Abdullah there giving you the top stories. Now we are in conversation here with Rashid Alam, who is an economist, and we are talking about the state of the Pakistan economy. Now before I went off on the break, I said that I wanted to talk about Shaukat Tareen's plans A, B and C. Now, how do you rate those?
Well, advisor to the Prime Minister on Finance gave his plan, saying that Plan A was, something from World Bank and other multilateral agencies. Plan B was from the Friends of Pakistan. And the Plan C was the last resort, going back to the IMF, which we started off this romance in way back 1988. And, that got deteriorated day by day because of the conditionalities IMF always put on Pakistan, on any developing country. That was very, very difficult to meet for any political government or for any popular government. These conditionalities always make any popular government most unpopular one. We'll talk about that. So now the Plan C has come on the face. It has been elevated as Plan A,
which is the IMF plan,
which is the rescue package from the IMF. So as you said earlier, that the China, America and again the Saudi Arabia, they have refused to lend us anything, again because of only our own created problems. We could not manage our house very well as we should have, and that is why everybody is saying that, man, put your house in order, then come to us. And they have their own problems as well. We must, keep in mind that as well. So now going back to IMF would definitely, it's not an easy task going back to IMF. IMF is the one agency which helps countries, especially the developing countries, with the macroeconomic objective, with the support for the balance of payment. If there is any trade deficit, if there is any currency adjustment, the IMF always come for that. And the one slogan of IMF, which has been there for the developing countries, is that they work for the poverty alleviation.
Right.
So it's their slogan, or what is the real fact or what is not. But when they have the IMF, the dark side or the loop side of the IMF plan or prescription is that they have only one prescription working for all. If they have any problem in Rwanda, they would give the same prescription to the Rwandan people, and if they have any problem in Philippines or in Pakistan, they would apply the same methodology, same tactics, same economic principle to them. So basically they come and they ask you to abolish all the subsidies which we have been doing over the past, the subsidy on oil and gas, doing away the subsidy on the electricity tariffs. They would again come, and they always come to say that you have to reduce your budget deficit. That means cutting on expending. Pakistan's social development programs like PSDP had reached to a level in previous years to 520 billion Pak rupee. That was a record. And undoubtedly that was the achievement of that government by that time. Definitely the government excessively borrowed in local currency from banks in order to meet that. But again, they would come up with the solution that you have to cut, you have to reduce your budget deficit in order to a certain portion of 4% or 3.5% of the GDP. For that purposes, again, you have to cut your spending. They would come and they would again emphasize you on privatization of the institutes which are left to be privatized. That would result in massive unemployment. These things.
What it sounds to me is that who benefits from this is the IMF, and who suffers the most are the peoples.
Exactly, the people.
Right.
Pakistan has been, engaged with IMF over the period of time, and since 1988, they have been under negotiations. And most of the time, because of the presence of the democratic government, Pakistan could not fulfill all the conditionalities of the IMF. IMF withdrew once, then came back, withdrew once, then came back.
That's
and
right.
After the atomic bomb blast, they again came back. And even in 1997, they have their conditionalities which sometimes self-contradictory in nature.
Okay, now it's looking more and more like Plan C of Shaukat Tareen has become Plan A.
That elevated as Plan A. We have no recourse. We can't go anywhere else except to IMF. And according to the news, they are meeting with the IMF Board of Governors and experts in Dubai today, Shaukat Tareen along with other people.
That's
so
right.
Definitely we have to assure them, look, we will reduce our budget deficit to this percentage. We'll cut our spending by this percentage. We will again start privatizing the institute. We will abolish the subsidies on different things. Now the fertilizer is the only one thing which I am aware of the government is providing subsidy on. Again, they have done away the subsidy on oil. They have done away the subsidy on electricity, the gas, and they would come up with a solution which would make the government, which always makes the government unpopular in the masses, in order to arrange for the fiscal balances and other things.
Then why do democratic governments always find themselves in this?
Well, on no choice basis, since they have been trying hard. They went to Saudi Arabia for deferred payment oil supply.
But historically, one sees that democratic governments end up going to the IMF.
Well, the democratic government goes up. The democratic government comes up. Unfortunately, comprises of the vested interest people. They can't make bold steps. They can't take bold steps in our country. So that is why they do it. Again, unfortunately, the people who rule us, they have very lower stake in this country. You must remember, look around and look at the people whose children are here, who spend most of the time outside Pakistan, whose account balances are allegedly kept outside Pakistan. So the picture would come up.
I saw this great article on Dawn the other day by Kuldeep Nair, who was saying that $1,500 billion of Indian money, right, is in dollars, and from the politicians and the elite and all of that, and it's all in foreign accounts. Right. If all of that money were to come back in, India's economy would be, But
India is still, considering the size, 1,500 billion could be there.
Yes,
but still the Pakistani money, if I tell you, the corrupt officers, the retired generals, the politicians, they have the massive amount outside Pakistan.
Right.
And if even that money comes back to Pakistan and they're still benefiting out of all the resources in Pakistan. The apathy, this I won't say anything else, it's an apathy. What they do, and they have started doing it again. Now the banks have increased the rate of interest. And the previous approval of their credit facility was on the lower rate of interest. What they are doing, they are drying the amount and they are investing in the more, interest giving, the more profitable ventures. So taking money from one hand and putting it in the same country on the higher interest rate, the situation is very worse. The government needs to take more measure. The government needs to take bold steps in order to, again, what I said.
So we're talking about bold steps. How about the State Bank of Pakistan and rescue package of 33 billion rupees after after the removal of the floor?
that was the need of the hour. Apart from these macroeconomic things, IMF and other things, if we really want to put our house in order, so I must appreciate whether the State Bank role is commendable in that they provided the liquidity into the market whenever it was needed. There's one thing which is called the cash reserve requirement. The State Bank of Pakistan has lowered it down to 5%. Initially it used to be 9%. So that now the money in the market, along with different other measures, the State Bank took in recent past, like 2 or 3 days back, they have exempted the 1 year time deposit from the SLR, statutory liquidity. I'm being too technical, but the liquidity is in the market. The State Bank is taking every step. Yesterday it pumped Pak Rupee into market through the way of open market operations, which is the monetary policy tools. The State Bank is trying hard to adjust the local liquidity requirement according to the need of the banks. They are trying to save the banks. They are trying really hard. But again, some things, most of the things are out of their control.
Before you get into this but I want to end on that note, Rashid, because we are time.
Yeah.
And, I do want to say that I do think that there are things that are being done. Okay, it's true that we are in very, very troubled times, but I think that, for instance, the State Bank thing, as you said as well, that is a
the depleting foreign exchange reserve, non-confidence of international donors in the country, and the current, the economic crisis. These are, compounding our woes. These are, we are suffering because of them. Mostly, again, our macroeconomic policies, the policies of the ruling elites, but lesser on the institution side. The institution like State Bank of Pakistan, the Pakistan banking industry, they're struggling hard.
We've run out of time. Thanks so much for coming into the studio, Rashid Alam. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's time now for a very short break, but when we come back, we are looking at this day in history, among other things. Stay with us. This is Breakfast at Dawn. We are.